Well, there are definitely spoilers for the final season in this video. Again, as always, spoilers are in this video. Please don't watch if you don't want spoilers for the final season of Game of Thrones. If you're still here listening to this, I'm now assuming you're cool with spoilers, so let's go. Okay, so first in this video, I want to talk about an interview that was super revealing about the final season. The biggest story comes from EW. James Hibberd has been invited by HBO for Game of Thrones exclusives for a while now, and he had more to reveal about the final season. So let's start with the least revealing bit where he talked about the ending, saying, "What you want in any final season is things to be unexpected, but also make sense. So you don't want anything to surprise you for surprise's sake. You want everything to feel earned and to look back and go, okay, yeah, I could see how they were building to that. And from what I know from the final season, it does that." And I'm not trying to bitch or dog on the show. I love Game of Thrones. I absolutely just adore it, but there has been a problem with fan service in the past, and perhaps characters doing something or achieving something that maybe didn't feel really earned to a lot of people. So the fact that they're very aware of this issue and they're addressing it in the final season is really encouraging. Okay, this next part is super juicy. So, hold on one second. I'm sorry. I thought I muted this. "You stupid fucking bitch. You're not funny. Next time, just tell the Game of Thrones news and don't try to joke." Hey, so do you know how you circumcise a Lannister? You kick his sister in the jaw. Did you know what Hodor's favorite cereal was? Raisin Bran. You want to know what Maester Pycelle does in his chamber at night? He Maester Bates. So this next bit is really interesting. So James talked about that huge-ass battle that's going to happen at Winterfell. We know that they built more actual parts to the Winterfell set for the epic battle that will take place at it in this final season. According to James, it is crazy impressive. He talked about the Winterfell set saying, "You can wander around, point the camera at any direction, and it shows more Winterfell." One of the directors pointed out that even in a big-budget Marvel or Star Wars movie, they usually only build what the actors are gonna stand directly in front of and fill in the rest with green screen. But for this set, and a few others too, they built it as a 360 set, so you don't have to fill it in with special effects. You don't have to favor one particular angle. You can have cameras follow people around. You can do unusual angles and come up with different things on the day of shooting. So it allows a lot more creativity, and it helps the actors. No acting required. They're running around these sets, fighting with fake blood on the snow flying everywhere, torches burning, fires and smoke. It feels like you're right there. And nobody make a joke about how there was no acting required and that must have been a relief for Emilia Clarke. That's just low-hanging fruit, and that woman is 1, beautiful, 2, funny, and 3, super fucking talented. So shame on you for even thinking that. Next, he talked about that big battle in the final season, saying, "It's shaping up to be what probably almost certainly is the longest consecutive battle sequence in cinema history. They've looked to try and find other ones out there, like the one in The Two Towers and in The Lord of the Rings, which is about 40 minutes. And in the movie 13 Assassins, which was also around 40 minutes. This is going to be longer than 40 minutes. It's pretty nuts." And we know from another interview where a director stated something similar, saying, "In the third part of the last season, there's a battle that the creators intend to be the biggest in television history. Almost the full episode will be about the battle. It will take about 1 hour." So yeah, that battle is going to be super intense. Lastly, James, just like a director did, I think a few weeks ago, assured us that the final season isn't going to be just non-stop action. He said, "There's been so much focus on the spectacularness of the battles, but they're not skimping on the one-on-one scenes and the character scenes. I think people are going to be surprised about how intimate the final season is, in addition to the spectacular stuff that you're expecting." Hopefully intimate means more sex, because there hasn't been enough sex scenes. And also dicks. I feel like we don't get enough dicks in Game of Thrones. Again, though, I'm super relieved the final season just isn't going to be nonstop action, and we're going to get more character development and hopefully close out some character arcs in a good, fulfilling way. It's even more revealing what James said next. The regular scenes of two people talking in a hallway, if it's a scene that would normally take a day to shoot, they'd spend several days shooting, because they're trying so hard to get every little thing right. So they do take after take, from all sorts of different angles, so that in editing, they have different ways to piece it together. So they are working so hard to make this final season just mind-blowingly awesome. In other news, Ian Glenn, Jorah's actor, talked about just how psychotic the show producers got for the final season, saying, "They're absolutely paranoid now about anyone finding out anything about the series and spoiling it. We weren't allowed a written word on a page. Everything was accessed through iPads with different security you had to get through to access it, which caused a problem for the actors, I have to say. But we found a way, either on phones or with pads, for it to be available on set." Now, despite this extra security and even having drone killers, we still got a lot of leaks for the final season. So now I wonder how much more we would have gotten had they not taken those extra steps. But Ian also talked about the read-through the actors did for the final season, when asked about it, and Kit saying he cried at the end of the read-through some time ago, stating, "There were a lot of tears that day. It's been a season of that because it's been a season of farewells and finishes. Kit, if he wasn't lying, had not read it, so he was reading it on that day for the first time." Lastly, Ian talked about the final season, which honestly sounded like generic actor hype. Honestly, these 6 episodes are absolutely phenomenal. The writers really came up trumps. The way they pulled it all together was a real writing task. Do you know why Lannisters have such big beds? It's because they pushed 2 twins together to make a king. HBO released a promo with Maisie, Sophie, and Kit giving reasons to watch Game of Thrones, which they were dragons, White Walkers, sex, Kit Harington, me, Sophie Turner, lots of people, not that many people. But this promo is part of HBO's campaign for people to stream seasons 1 through 7 and get people hyped for the final season. And they've been pushing their streaming service pretty hard, so we can expect more of this type of promos. Why didn't Theon cut Ramsay's throat when he was shaving him? Because he didn't have the balls. Richard Madden did an interview where he was asked a bit about Game of Thrones, which is kind of expected at this point. Every time Richard does an interview, they ask him at least one thing about Game of Thrones. So he was asked if he still keeps up with Game of Thrones, which he responded, "Absolutely. I can't wait for the new season. I kind of don't recognize that I was in it anymore because I've been watching so many years of it. And they talk about Robb Stark and I know who he is, but I don't see myself in that role. I'm just a viewer now, which is so good. That was one of the bad things about being in the show, is you got the script so you knew what was going to happen next. And I've not had that for years. So now I can truly enjoy it as a viewer, which is thrilling." Richard also gave his prediction for the end of Game of Thrones, which I thought was just fantastic. He said, "I kind of think it's just going to be 3 dragons flying around and everyone else is dead. It's a possibility." I don't know, that would mean Viserion doesn't actually get killed, and he remains as an undead dragon flying around, which I think would be kind of sad. Although maybe there's another dragon in the final season, or a dragon hatches from an egg. I don't know, maybe Richard knows something we don't know. Hey, do you know the name of Tywin Lannister's incompetent cousin? Tyluse Lannister. Lastly, let's end on some good old George news because he made a huge announcement on his website, writing, "The 2nd volume of A Song of Ice and Fire, A Clash of Kings was published in 1999. Seems like yesterday, honestly. And I still recall the 3 years between books, when readers would email me to ask what was taking so long for book 2. Since other fantasy author, fill in your choice, put out a book a year, rain or shine, and why was I taking so long? Sigh. Those were the days when I was only 2 years late. Next year will mark the 20th anniversary of its release, so Bantam Spectra will be doing a deluxe leather-bound edition of Clash as well. As with GOT, the anniversary edition will be lavishly illustrated, with both color palettes and black and white. Our artist this time around will be an amazing young talent named Lauren Cannon. You can see samples of her work on her own website. I love her paintings, and we're all looking forward to working with her and seeing her unique take on my world and characters. If you haven't seen the illustrations for the first book, they are amazing. George always has the best art for his books, so I'm super excited about them doing the artwork for the second book. Okay, that's the news. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, and happy holidays.